Hey, welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage. Back on the 71 Nova rear suspension. The weather's been up and down. We had some rain, some wind, and a beautiful sunny day. I've been working on this the last 3 days. That's the span this video covers. But yesterday was beautiful and sunny. I took the housing outside and did all my plasma cutting and grinding. And I had to do some welding to touch up a few gouge marks I made with the plasma cutter, because those brackets were really on there. That's why I've been dreading it for 3 or 4 years. I say dread, I mean that's a real thing. If you have a project you're thinking about doing, I bet you do the same thing. There's one part of it you're really not looking forward to. So what I do, I kind of pamper myself in that one job I don't want to do. In this case yesterday, I put it out in the sun. Sparks could go anywhere they want, because we just had a big rainstorm. I'm not going to set the woods on fire. Plus I'm on the tarred driveway. I can make a mess. I can make noise. It's a beautiful day. If I did it inside, sparks go everywhere. That stuff from the plasma cutter, ozone, whatever it is, kind of, I don't know, leaves a haze. So that was my idea of making myself not dread it, and it went really well. So it's a sticking point of this project, and now I'm past it. And let's see what I did the last few days and get up to speed. I disconnected the springs on the rear. It's always amazing with all the junk back here that the shackle works as nice as it does. You just pull it out a little bit and you can release half of it. And she flips right down. Now I just pop out the 3 bolts that go to the body, which I always thought was amazing, that 3 fender bolts will hold a leaf spring in. And take her out. Out on the bench, the amount of body dust is unreal. I wipe it off even before I took these pictures, but it's just that abrasive stuff everywhere. However, the aluminum bushing in the spring I need to pull out. There's 2 spaces here. The Caltrac bracket goes over the spring. And I recently read on the Caltrac website that if you put 3/4 heater hose over this, take the snap ring out, so when it slams on the spring, it's a little quieter for street driving. So I'll probably do that. On the rear, you just use a stock rubber bushing. It works well. If you buy their slider kit, then they have an aluminum bushing for the back as well. I did find lowering springs, multi-leaf lowering springs, if the multi-leafs that I put in today ride too high. I don't want the car jacked up in the back. A little bit, but not a lot. I like the wheels to tuck up into the fender wells. The locator piece that I made and welded on there kind of looks factory if you didn't know any better. You can never have too many round things with a press, but I got lucky today. I found just the right size round things and pushed out the front bushing, no problem. But what is a problem, kind of mocking up the monoleaf next to the multi-leaf I have, that's a lot of difference. That's going to jack it up too much. So I just got off the phone and ordered 2-inch lowering springs. They were relatively inexpensive, $100 a piece. So they'll be here in a few days, so I got lots of work to do anyway. But I'm not going to go through the work of pressing this bushing in, assembling the whole thing, get it on the ground, and have it look 4-wheel drive. So that's that. All excited a few minutes ago, another dry shaft tube showed up, genuine Spicer, for the 71. They shipped it in a box this time. What could possibly go wrong? Wait a minute. Is that a hinge? Yeah. All stove up. But what are you going to do? The genuine Spicer tube is only slightly cheaper. It's welded seam mild steel compared to the 083 seamless Molly tube like I built the 72 Nova drive shaft out of. So this will be easier on my pipe cutter. Probably not as strong in the big picture. Probably slightly heavier. It'll be fine for this street car. In the end, it was still in the box. is still dented. So I guess you got to cut it no matter what. It's much nicer out today. I set up the rear end in the driveway because it's going to be kind of smoky cutting through the brackets. And my plasma cutter has 50-foot leads, so I can go quite a ways. Cutting the outside of the bracket, piece of cake. Whoever the genius was who decided to weld the inside certainly got ultimate strength. Yeah, it was me. I just went through 6 batteries grinding. I guess it's time to break out the electric. So there's $70 worth of brackets, cut to pieces, more down there. And I got the tubes clear of all the original stuff. Now I'm gonna TIG weld in the gouges where I was trying to get the center out and grind them smooth. So, I mean, that's a step you don't have to do, but I have to do. I swapped over to the cordless grinder, well, eight years ago anyway. And I forgot how powerful this is compared to the cordless. This is, I don't know why I'm showing you the cord. You've seen a cord before. But yeah, it's my snap-on grinder I bought in 1987. Back then, there wasn't as many choices to buy tools. You could drive out to Sears, you could go to the flea market, or the snap-on guy, or the Mac guy, came to you. There was no internet. I guess you could mail money away and do it, but in this case, snap-on guy came to me. I liked him. Pretty good dude. And, you know, pay by the week. Back then, the welding supply places and the nut and bolt warehouses didn't want off-the-street traffic. If you didn't have a business account, you had no business being there. They were not friendly to the public until the internet and the big box stores came, and then they had to change their tune. That's just a fact. Fill and grind, fill and grind. Okay, that looks acceptable. The lowering springs I ordered Monday morning, 8 o'clock, and they're supposed to be delivered tomorrow, which is Wednesday. That's pretty good. And right on schedule, they did show up today. This is how they were shipped, with these slip-on shipping labels that actually could slide off the end if they wanted to, but they stayed in the middle somehow. They both made it to my house because they shipped them with 2 different tracking numbers. But the profile compared to the monoleaf is very similar. So I believe these are going to work out just fine. I have to press out the front bushing. I've already selected some round stuff that fits right over and should push right on the ring. So let's see how that goes. That's the part number of the 2-inch lowering springs. They also both have this 2024 number, and I bet if you were a spring person, had a big catalog of some sort, this is probably a stock application for something that just happens to lower 1st gen Camaro, 3rd gen Nova, 2 inches. Other than the fact that the multi-leafs are a tad heavier than the mono, pressing out the bushings was no big deal. And a little bit of lube and a hammer, sounds like country music, I was able to drive in the aluminum one. I was just going to start it and use the press, and they went right in. And using that to rest the spring on, I was able to center it side to side. We're good to go. Now I'm just going to touch up the paint around the spring eye with a brush because I can't leave it bare. I don't want it to rust. And I'll touch up the rest of the spring when it's hanging in the car. But that'll allow me to assemble the front pocket and put her in. I cut a 2 3/4 inch long piece of 3/4 heater hose. I pulled the snap ring off to remove the outer plate and slid it over the portion that contacts the spring eye. It ends up looking like this. This rests on top of the spring, and adding the cushion, this is on the Caltrax website. For the street car, will save a lot of racket. And it's still going to function just fine. This is the order of parts. You lube the bushing with white lube. I hope it doesn't get filled with body dust. Kidding. The bracket, this goes next, right there. the aluminum spaces, which you won't find much mention to in any instruction sheet, but they clearly space it out in the pocket. And then your bolt goes facing outward with a lock-in nut. Now that's tight, ready to go in the car. The rod will connect here. You got a choice of 2 holes. It runs back underneath and connects to the bottom. It becomes your lower spring plate mount. I hoisted the springs back up into place. I haven't touched up yet from here back, considering the fact they came unboxed from Summit Racing in Ohio in a couple days. All in all, they're not beat up too bad. The advertising sticker is out if you care. I say holding it up in there by hand, starting the 3 bolts into the pocket. Not quite as easy as it was with the monoleafs. I set the housing back in place and was kind of mocking things up because I need to assemble most everything and put it down on jack stands to actual check pinion angle at ride height. There's been one other thing bothering me for several years. I've been dreading this part, cutting all that off and redoing everything I had done, but that's done. But the foolish outboard shocks. This side is the better of the two. It goes to the rear. It's actually slightly inboard of the lip of the inner wheel well because I have a 265 tire on there now. If I wanted to run a 275 drag radial, the shock is going to be in the way. The passenger side forward shock, it goes forward of the axle. The bell actually sticks outside the lip of the body. It's much closer on this side. It's just not a good idea. I never liked it. So I'm going to move the shocks inboard. I need to fix all the hangers on my tailpipes anyway so I can lower them down. There's no fuel in my fuel system because I have to work around the fuel line. But I'm going to run a cross member pretty much inside from there to there. And we're going to lay my shocks on an angle, like a Chrysler, kind of like this way, up on an angle. And now there's no better time to do it than right now, and if I don't do it, it's going to haunt me, so I don't plan on racing this car, but if I did, it'd probably be with a 275 drag radial, and I'll just be under here trying to make the shocks fit. Might as well do it now. On the bottom, it's a simple matter of just flipping the shock plate over. They already gave you front and back location. Just put it on the car, so these are inboard, and that'll be fine. They sell some kits to do this that only use 1-inch tubing for the upper cross member, and it bolts in where the rubber snubber goes into the sheet metal frame rail. That's not going to happen. I'm going to weld it in. I have plenty of 1.25-inch roll cage tubing. So that'll be the upper, and there'll be brackets of some sort. I'm still working that out in my head exactly how I want to do it. And I've had this set of universal shocks kicking around in typical fashion. This bushing needs to go in the top and vice versa, but hopefully the bushing itself's the same, or I'll have to make something. I can't even get a shock that'll bolt on. I haven't even tried. I just have these and want to use them. I think they're the right length. We'll see. I'll either make them go or get something else. The Caltrac ones use a stud on the top, but they do the same thing. They mount inboard on an angle like an old Mopar. I've always liked that look anyway, with the shocks tipped in at the top, both on the back, out of harm's way. It's where they belong. They'll work just fine. I never really understood the staggered shock setup, nor do I care. When I started this project, I really thought I'd wrap it up by the second video, but I'd kind of forgotten about the rear shock situation. I could put it back together the way it is and just run the street tire I have on there, but there's no better time. I got all these tools, lots of metal, no reason not to. Plus, I think it'll be better, and it'll look better if you look underneath. I've never liked those staggered shocks. So I got some engineering to do. It's just 2 shocks, but I'll overthink it, redo it about 3 times, the usual. And I hope the end result is worth the wait. So I'll catch you in a few days. Next time, like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Ring the bell. Why not? Take it easy. Bye.